Hello, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you may be in the world today. It's another edition of the Remote Work Life Summit, and I have a great guest with me today. I've got the co-founder of Outpost with me. You can find the website at outpost-asia.com. And Outpost Asia, Outpost itself, is specifically to do with co-living and co-working neighborhoods in really idyllic locations. And one of those locations is Bali. And today, I think, David, you're talking to me from Bali, am I right?
I'm talking you from Bali, that's correct.
Excellent, wonderful. And David, I know there's lots of people within my community who are looking to escape the 9 to 5 cubicle. They're looking to really sort of connect and grow in a different environment, completely different environment that's not as hustle and bustle. Could you tell us a bit more about Outpost, please?
Sure. Well, you're hitting on the demographic that we really focus on, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. The what we find is that, or what studies show, is that 2/3 of millennials feel stuck in either their work or their life. They feel that there's something more out there, but they can't find it. They could be in debt from going to school. Social media has made it more difficult to truly connect with other people, and many of them want to make the world a better place, but they're stuck. And if they can't go out and see the world, how can they make it a better place? So this is really where Outpost comes in. What we've done is we've set up communities, or neighborhoods as we call them, in idyllic locations. We have 2 in Bali and 1 in Cambodia. And we're really focusing on giving people a place to go to find people who are like themselves. They want to explore. They want to grow personally and professionally. So they're not seeking a vacation per se from their life. They want to create a life where there's opportunity for growth and betterment of the world. And there's that connection, and really connecting with people who have those same aspirations. So Outpost was set up originally by my partner, Brian, and I. We had both been pretty peripatetic in our careers, traveling from place to place, often living in cities. And I was in Tokyo for a while, in New York, and those are wonderful places, but realized there's some other places that I wanted to spend some time. And he was traveling around Beijing and Jakarta, and we decided to set up in Bali, to set up an office that was for us. And so it was really a place to be productive. And what we saw over time were the people who were coming to us, it wasn't just a place that they were looking for to get work done. It was really a lifestyle. And so what we're really focusing on is catering to that lifestyle. So we offer, from our workplace, we offer living. So we manage rooms. In one of our locations in Bali, we have 30 rooms, for example. We also offer training. So on life design, we're also having some writing courses, and then how to grow your side hustle. So there are a number of courses that we're trying to build on to help people live the life that they really want to lead.
Sounds great. And I think that when you think of, or when you're in your office cubicle, I know I used to think that these sorts of things were sort of beyond my imagination almost. And you would often see adverts, and you used to think to yourself, "This is too good to be true," you know. But you've really made it happen, and you've really built that up. You've built your community, as you said, and you mentioned that social media perhaps has made it more difficult to actually do that. And I'm with you. I mean, social media has a part, but I think that those in-person interactions mean so much more. How, I mean, tell us about how you see, or the key elements to actually making those initial connections, you know?
We talk a lot about shared experiences. So it's one thing, for example, to go to a movie and then you talk to someone else who saw the movie 2 or 3 weeks before, and you can talk about the movie and you can bond a little bit. But being able to go through an experience with someone else, even if it is just simply seeing a movie or going through a yoga class with someone, It's these shared experiences that really foster connections. So what we try to do is create shared experiences, whether we're bringing donuts to at 10 a.m. to our balcony so people can bond over donuts, or whether it's a salsa lesson, or whether it's a SEO class. We try to create opportunities for a little bit of shared interactions, so that over time that people can build up the connections that they truly crave. And I think what we find out is that our members are really our best advertising or marketing, because what happens is, like you said, you saw people living this lifestyle and you're like, well, I don't really, it's too far out there. But in actuality, what's happening is that your fantasy, if you will, is our members' reality. And once you see that that reality could be yours, well, it's a convert. Right? And really what we're showing is that there are other ways to live for 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. For me, a traveling lifestyle for longer than that is too much. For others, they want to make a whole life of just moving around from place to place. So we want to support that lifestyle, at least for the time that people want to have that opportunity.
And how, again, I'm actually, these questions are actually coming from me, quite a lot of from me, but others from the community that I have as well, the remote work life community.
Sure.
They want to know, if they're looking to, locate elsewhere. Some of them haven't even been on, holidays for that long. They may have been on holiday for a week. So locating their whole career and life is like perhaps quite something that's, again, beyond what they've done before. How would you suggest you prepare for something like this whole movement of yourself and your career to somewhere that's totally foreign and totally different? How do you actually get that going?
I think there are a multitude of ways, and there are many different people who choose to do this. So when I was younger, for example, I went to Japan and I taught English. I had no background in teaching per se, but it was an opportunity to use what skills that I had and bringing them overseas. So there are many people who do that now. They are just leave where they're at. They find jobs teaching English and go from there. There are other people who say, well, I have some skills in business. Let me try drop shipping. So there are people who say, all right, well, let me try drop shipping and figure out how I can sell a few things online. I think the more successful people have some original skill they've have, and they're trying to take that and do that internationally. And so I think that would be my recommendation. So if you've been working a few years in marketing, see what you can break off and have your own clients that you're currently working with. Can you take them with you? And then you're able to live life more on your own terms. It's usually you get to pick your location, your career, or your role. So you sacrifice one or the other when you choose solely your location. I think there are people who can make it happen wherever they are. But you're always giving up something. So there's always some trade-off. There's always a little rain in paradise. But with that said, we think there's a tremendous amount of upside when you can really control the life that you're trying to lead. And I think really what we were talking about at the beginning of the call is feeling that there's more out there. And I think what people are lacking is this sense of control. And so when people are traveling from place to place or with us for a few months, they feel that they're controlling things. And that sense of control is often missing when we're just doing the 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear that. And I think there's, like you said, there's lots of people that are looking to take control of their lives, take control of their own trajectory, their own destination. And I suppose sometimes, like you said, you have to take, if you've got those skills, or if you've got some sort of plan in place, it's always good to have a plan, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is to actually take those skills and see what opportunities are there. Are there actually opportunities, would you say, within Bali or within the other outposts that you have, or is it mainly people who are coming with those skills and working within the co-living and the co-working spaces?
I think people meet each other, and then there's serendipitous interactions, and oh, you do this, I do this, let's see what we can do together. But with that said, there are also certain things when you go to another country, you've got some visa issues in terms of being able to work or not work in a certain place. So there are really some challenges that you might have in necessarily finding a job within a different country. But I think that you can definitely find your way to meet others and create and collaborate and find job opportunities for sure.
Mm-hmm. So another question that I got asked is so one of the things that as somebody who works remotely, I always look at one of the first things I look at when I either take a holiday or I'm going to a new place. I always look at broadband first, and the connection to the internet. But the question is what other things do you think are imperative if you're especially if you're moving from your destination country to a country that's completely foreign? What other things should you look out for, and what other things do you need to have in your toolkit to sort of make things work, would you say, David?
Sure. I think the broadband one is an interesting one. I think that we're many of these places getting beyond that. There is the stability in the internet in the places that we work. People don't think about the electricity, but that's a concern. And I think in the future people are going to give as much thought to the internet as they give to the electricity now. So I think what you highlight is that there are headline concerns that people see. Mm-hmm. Is the internet there? But really what the concerns are is can you meet other people? Can you find a place that you feel at home for the length of time that you're there? And I think that's ultimately the way that we find fulfillment. Are we able to contribute to something? Is our job meaningful, or is how we're living our life of meaning? So I think they're almost more internal questions that people have to ask, but also to see hey, if I'm going here, are there people, especially for those who are first timers, if you will, are there people like me that I can meet? And then you start to explore and say, all right, well, I'm more interested in going here or going there. Or I know these types of people are in Vietnam and I want to head there. So I think that once you get past all right, can I rent out my apartment in London or San Francisco, and where do I have to put my stuff in storage? Once you get beyond that, it's these hidden things that you don't think much about. Hey, if I go here, will I be lonely? I'm having trouble organizing my day because there's so much to do and I'm not getting work done. Those are the issues that on the day-to-day that people kind of are what they're facing when they're really out there.
No, I hear that. Thank you, David. Thank you. And so another thing is that feeling of, I don't know, working remotely or working, again, as a digital nomad, you tend to be moving around a lot. So those relationships, those initial connections that you make can sometimes be quite, it can be quite a challenge to actually sort of grow those connections, those relationships. Are there any tips that you can give, David, about, because I know you're very values driven, Outpost is very values driven, and the people that you sort of encourage into the community are very values driven as well and purpose driven. Are there any bits of advice that you can give in terms of holding on to those connections and making them sort of really sort of work for the individual?
Well, for me, we talk about our values of exploration and growth and connection, and exploration to me isn't going out there and being in one place in 1 week, one place in another. For me, exploration is really digging in and staying in one spot for a while. So 5 months, 6 months, longer in one location, mm-hmm. And that's where you start to really build those connections. Because what you do is you'll have these, if you go, in my opinion, if you move faster, you have these wonderful experiences and you're gaining perspective. But what you really lose in that is the depth of experience with other people. Mm-hmm. And so my recommendation is to spend longer and check less off the bucket list and really go deeper, learn a bit more of the language, and you find things to be more rewarding, in at least in my opinion.
No, I think that's really good because, again, when you look on places like YouTube, for example, you see lots of videos of people going from one place to another to another. And like you said, they're not really sort of getting a feel for their environment. They're not making those, like you said, those connections. They're not really exploring that. They're perhaps, like you said, ticking things off their list and going from place to place. So I think it's a wonderful piece of advice to actually really embed yourself and sort of really get a feel for where you are and like the culture, the language, and really immerse yourself in that. So I love that. I love that.
And as an American, there was a time where people, especially when I was younger, they would take 3 weeks off or 4 weeks off and go to Europe. And you'd hear people say, "Well, I did Rome, I did I did Spain, I did London, I did the Czech Republic," and they were spending 2 days in each spot, and they were doing that. And yes, it's wonderful. You can recall what it's like to be in Prague, and you can recall what it's like to be in Budapest. You've got that image, but you're just rushing through and having a beer in this place and a beer in that place, and it's a fabulous experience that you can recall that, but really the depth isn't there. And to me, my more rewarding experiences were when I was spending longer times in places, when things happened to me, like trains didn't show up and I was stuck spending a night in the train station. Those types of experiences, while not always fun, are the ones that are most rewarding and help you grow. And so you have those more often than not when you stay in one place and you experience it rather than doing it.
No, again, I love that because perhaps the generation before, the Zennial generation, I suppose you could say, that where you had the holiday experiences, we literally fly you in, sort of experience it, like you said, experience it, and then take your pictures and come back. But now I think lots of millennials who may be listening to this, they want a lot more, don't they? They want to get more of a feel and they want to feel part of it, and I think that's the best way to go about it. And I think Outpost is a great way to actually enable them to do that. And I think that leads quite nicely onto your you mentioned your values are connect, explore, and grow. We've covered the first two. I think that does enable you to grow, doesn't it? Because if you're experiencing new things, experiencing new cultures, you even that thing where you mentioned about the train and all that sort of thing, that in itself may seem like a bad experience at the time, but you're growing, you're learning from that, right?
Right.
So in terms of that growth aspect, what other areas, how else do you feel that growth can be achieved as well, David?
Sure. Well, at Outpost, we have the personal growth and the professional growth, and we have events. So that was speaking about earlier, whether it's salsa dancing or marketing or branding. So we have a number of different events where you can grow professionally, if you will, and then other ones where there's personal growth. We also have courses. So we have something we call Code Remote, where people come in for 7 weeks and learn Python. And it's fabulous to see that someone has come in with no experience, and at the end they had an Airbnb clone. So there's tremendous growth there. And then after learning how to code, you're in the Outpost network, and there are always people who are going to need those skills. So it's almost an entree point, or it is an entree point into the community and into the lifestyle. So that's something that we offer. And there are other classes, like I had mentioned, on writing and finding meaning to you in a lifestyle, called our Life Design Lab. So we offer those courses as well. So that's the more formal learning. And the informal learning that you had mentioned as well. I'm in Indonesia and watching how people live and work, and I'm in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and seeing the frenetic pace and how people are making their lives here.
No, again, great. That's another key thing I always try to put across is, as well as the cultural aspects, there's, in terms of your growth, there's also as you mentioned, the hard skills, because the world is moving so quickly, and as much as it's good to have a good skill set, say for example in marketing, if you can learn something like SEO or writing, or like David says, even coding, that can give you a different outlook. You may be in marketing, but you may need to have, you'd be collaborating with, say, web designers or SEOs or writers. So having that additional skill set is going to make you a much more valuable proposition to your clients or to whoever you may be working for. So those soft skills as well as the hard skills are just really imperative. Excuse me, for your growth, your personal and professional growth.
It's exactly that. What I found and throughout my career, and we find now, is that if you can speak the language, and so if you learn coding and you're not a coder, you understand the language, so you can be that person between the CEO and the tech team. There are many. If you know marketing and you know the language and the words that people use, you can translate that for the business folks. There's so much that you can do by just learning how people speak and just learning the basics, that you can really find your career being propelled in many different directions.
I think so. And it's like you said, David, I think because maybe people have in their mind that, I only learn code if I want to be a coder, and that's just not the case. Even, the actions or the interactions that you have with people, or the understanding of those different skill sets is just going to take you so much further. But on top of that, though, the growth aspect in terms of, developing your own community, you start off with one or two people, and that one person may introduce you to another, and another. You never know where that person who you meet may be in 1 or 2 years' time. They may be CEO of their own company, right?
Right.
And then that connection that you've made, or that exploring that you've done, that community that you've built up is again contributing to your own growth, isn't it, David?
Right. Well, that's the wonderful thing about Outpost. So if you're in London, you're, if you will, restricted by the people who are around you. And London is a tremendously international city, so there's wonderful people to meet all of the time. But it doesn't compare to an Outpost, because you'll be sitting next to someone from Brazil, someone from the UK, someone from Australia, someone from Indonesia, and you're working on your businesses and your ideas in very different ways. And so that there are so many people around there to meet, and you've got wonderful opportunities to maintain those connections. Boy, it's hard to maintain connections with people, for sure, but the opportunity is there. So that's really what we think is a fantastic experience when people come through Outpost, is just that there is that diversity of people from almost everywhere. Yeah,
it's a skill in itself, isn't it, David? Maintaining connections, because you want to sort of send somebody an email, but you don't want to do it too regularly, or you want to make a phone call. But when is the right time to do that? So I think it's so undervalued, these sort of face-to-face interactions. How if you can build those up, it can really make it much easier to sort of maintain them down the line, right?
Right. Well, it's how we've, as humans, how we've always had connections. It's been physical. It's been, it's been right there in front of you. So the fact that we have these opportunities to Skype call and be as present as we can with the computer, it's still obviously not the same as the physical presence. And being able to hang out in the evening with on the beach with people all over the world and talking about the life you want to lead, or whether you sit back and talk about your business ideas. To have that opportunity and have the sounding board of people from many different places is really what the Outpost experience is about.
Yeah, and what I know we've got a limited amount of time, David, but what I want to just say is, as well as those connections, or that ability to make connections, what other traits or what other aspects of somebody working remotely or as a digital nomad, somebody sitting here today thinking to themselves, actually, this lifestyle is for me. What other traits do you feel are important for you to actually survive and to actually really make this sort of lifestyle work for yourself?
Is to really have a good sense of direction and plans on where you want to be and how you want to grow, and then at the same time realize that once you put that sail up, your direction might go in a different way, but then reset those plans. You have an idea of where you want to go and how you want to get there, and then be crafty enough or agile enough to know that sometimes there's a flow that you caught in, and it's going to bring you in a different direction. So I think the ability to plan and look forward and change is really is critical. Excellent. But you can't just say, I'm going to go out there and I'll figure it out. Because to me, that's not always setting yourself up for the best chance of success.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And as far as Outpost, what's the future looking like for Outpost? And do you have any more locations planned at all, or what?
Sure. Well, it's really wonderful to see where our members are going, and they're coming from one of our locations on the beach in Bali to in the mountains to our location in Cambodia, and we'd just like to be able to serve our members wherever they're traveling. We think being able to set up that network provides people the shared experiences, not just in Bali but elsewhere. So we're really excited about the future and creating a community of many neighborhoods, if you will. So we're excited about the future.
Excellent. And I know I mentioned the URL at the top of the call. Is there somewhere other than that URL that people should look if they're interested in, setting up an Outpost?
I think the websites are, outpost-asia.com is the best place to start to learn about our living and working environments as well as training. You could Google and see the news articles about us. There's some wonderful news and videos of people who've come through here. So we're excited to see more people come through, adopt the lifestyle. Like I said, the challenge when you're sitting there in your office feels like, how do you get out of the lifestyle?
Yeah.
For sure, it feels that way. But it's easier if you just say, hey, I'm ready to do it. I think once you find a place for your stuff, or once you rent out your place, everything else is easy.
And just commit to it.
Just commit to it. Realize it's going to be this amount of time, and yeah. And so what happens is some people come out and they're with us for 2 months or 2.5 months, and they had an idea and they couldn't get it started, or they couldn't get the business plan, or the business plan didn't work. And worst thing that happened was they were with us for 2.5 months, had an amazing time. They learned, they had a vacation, they met fabulous people, and they go home. So let that be the worst thing.
Doesn't sound too bad to me at all, David. Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here today at the Remote Work Life Summit. We'll be looking out for what's going on at outpost-asia.com, and hopefully I get to speak to you again soon in the future to catch up.
Hopefully get to see you out here soon.
Yeah, and that as well, yeah.
You got a spot.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, David.
Thanks.